All right, folks. This is great. I have a very special uh, episode today, and what we're gonna do, as you guys know, is I like to talk to leading practitioners, experts in the digital industry, and I thought we'll talk a little bit about growth marketing. Now, growth marketing is one of the words that can be used as digital marketing or online marketing, and growth is one of them. Now, why growth marketing? And of course, my guest can tell you more about it. But my take on growth marketing is when a company is in a scaling mode, especially in the tech side of it, we call it growth marketing, which is very different than growth hacking. Okay, but it's somewhere in near there. So, with that, again, my name is Bob Tripathi with Digital Sparx Marketing, and I have a great guest here, Kelsey Matthews. Kelsey, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, as I said, I'm really excited about talking with you right now. And I know that you are the growth marketing manager at Skyscanner. And Skyscanner, like many other sites, is a way you can book your travel and many other things. As I was mentioning earlier, I've been using it since 2014 timeframe because one of my Irish friends introduced me to it. But yeah, would you mind introducing yourself and what do you
Yeah,
do at Skyscanner and things like that?
of course. Yeah, thanks. My name's Kelsey. I work for Skyscanner. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Skyscanner, we're a global travel search website. So essentially, you can compare flights, hotels, and car rental. We work with over 1,200 partners. So that means airlines and online travel agencies. So it's really your one stop shop to find the cheapest travel prices. And at Skyscanner, I work within our US marketing team, and I mainly focus on SEO, content marketing, as well as influencer marketing. So, extremely passionate about all of those channels. So, yeah, excited to chat about it today.
Now, yeah, we love it. We love passionate and people, and people who love this and breathe this. So it's great. I think your plate is kind of full because I heard some of the most important tactics in
Yes.
SEO, content, influencer marketing. But I'm guessing you work on the business to consumer sites. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep, that's correct. So for SEO, we have a travel blog.
Okay.
So if you go to skyscanner.com/tips and inspiration, you can see the sort of content that we're producing. And essentially, we're just trying to answer traveler questions.
Hmm.
So it can be anything from the initial phases of travel planning, so the more inspirational content, all the way to different flight deals or airline promo codes. So we really just try to create content to answer questions that travelers are asking.
Interesting. So, have you seen that answering questions is a much better way than other type of content creation, or have you played around in different areas?
Yes, definitely. So with every piece of content for us, we do try to answer the question that they're asking or solve the problem. And our goal with that is when the person lands on the page, we want to answer that question within the first 5 to 10 seconds that travelers landing on that page. So we're constantly looking at different metrics and KPIs, whether it's
Hmm.
bounce rate or time on page. And we're not always just concerned with getting them to book a flight. Uh,
Nice.
because, yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to have content that they're not there to book a flight. So, yeah, as long as we know that we're answering the question, they're engaging with the content, then that's success for us.
Nice. So let's dive a little bit into the world of search, then we'll move on to content, and then
Yeah.
we'll move to influencer marketing, right? So how is SEO different at Skyscanner, which is so B2C focused? And it is kind of a industry where there are quite a few players, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you differentiate, especially when it comes with SEO?
So for SEO, are you saying differentiate in terms of the competitors or differentiate SEO versus content?
Yeah, like how would you go about, optimizing, looking at
Okay.
keyword intent, things like that, right? Because there's so many players hitting the same type of areas, keywords,
Oh,
whatnot, right?
yes.
Yeah.
It's
So
extremely competitive,
yeah.
especially in the US. So for us, SEO tools are our best friends.
Mm,
So we're constantly looking in tools such as Ahrefs,
mm,
there's link decks, Google Search Console, keywords, actually just AdWords. Actually, you can kind of see how competitive the keyword is and what that would cost you if you wanted to launch a paid
mm,
campaign. So within these tools, we can actually get a feel for how competitive that keyword is and
mm.
how likely it is that we're even going to be able to rank on page one. And for us, and actually for any company, I'd recommend focusing a little bit more on the long tail keywords.
Mm.
Obviously, generic search terms such as, let's just say, cheap flights, for instance, you know is going to be way more competitive than cheap flights to Los Angeles in May.
Mm.
So we are focusing a little bit more on that longer tail keyword where we can see the return a little bit quicker and we know it's not as competitive.
So how do you go about, let's say you got a keyword like, cheap flights to LA in August, for example,
Yeah.
right? How would you go about, like, you just create a blog post, or how about you go about doing your SEO?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we could create a blog post. The good thing about Skyscanner is we have loads of historical data on
Right.
booking behavior, how prices change, travel trends that we're able to then implement within content.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put data in front of a traveler, I think it just kind of builds their trust, it builds their confidence in the brand. So, yeah, we're really trying to utilize the data we have to better inform traveler decisions and save them money.
Oh,
So we would
nice.
create a blog post and yeah, just ensure all the kind of SEO fundamentals are met, the title, description, and ultimately that the content's really good.
Yep.
And again, that we're answering the question, or the problem that people are trying to solve.
Nice. Yeah, that's exactly, I think, the whole move towards intent based, so
Exactly.
critical. And I agree about the whole long tail strategy that you guys have. So when you look at SEO in 2019, we always get these blog posts or these comments here and there. Oh, SEO is so last century, it's dead, blah, blah, blah. But according to you, what are some of the most, if you have to put out, like, say, three elements or four elements which are still critical, what would you list that out as, what, from where you
Uh,
stand?
well, number one, and it seems so basic, is ensuring that the content is well written
Right.
and that it's good. Keyword stuffing is long gone. You can
Yeah.
actually be penalized for it. So ensure that you are answering the traveler question. Second, I would test various elements on the page and see how Google reacts.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually utilize your paid channels to get quicker results in terms of kind of like A/B testing and seeing what works the best. So for us, we've tested various schema markup on pages. We've tried adding tables or
Yeah.
bullet points to the top to try to get those featured snippets. Google is literally trying to answer the question without users having to click on a result.
Right.
So if that's going to happen, you want to be that brand that's showing as the results. Because if anything, it's brand awareness. So just testing various elements like that. So those are the top two, I would say. Backlinks are incredibly important. This is where working with influencers actually comes into play. If there's influencers that are experts or frequently talk about the article that you're writing about, try to collaborate with them, get them to feature some content or do a little content swap. So yeah, just utilizing other channels aside from SEO to then help boost that SEO
Yeah.
strategy.
Now, link building, I'm guessing, is pretty organic in your business, is it? But
Yes.
do you have a solid link building strategy that this is how many we need to acquire, things like that?
Not so much. A lot of it is organic, like you said. We're constantly picked up in online news outlets with influencers who just kind of recommend us naturally, which we're lucky. We're so lucky to have that. One thing we've been doing to help drive additional backlinks is, like I mentioned before, implementing that data into articles. We
Mm-hmm.
notice when we, have the top flight deals, or this is when you should book flights for Christmas. that sort of content just naturally gets picked up a lot more than if you were to just kind of do a basic travel article.
Nice. And this is, I believe, summer is the busiest time for you guys too, I'm guessing, right?
Summer's busy. Yeah, the holidays, Black
Yeah.
Friday, Cyber Monday is huge. So
Nice.
there's a lot of, major holidays and peak periods that we see throughout the year that we try to prepare for and launch campaigns around, get content ready for that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely.
So before we move on to content and other areas, what are some of the KPIs do you guys measure on a weekly, monthly basis when it comes to SEO?
For SEO, a lot of it is the traffic. So
Okay.
organic traffic, trying to grow that year over year. We do look a little bit more down the funnel. So not only do we want to acquire the traffic, but are they searching for a flight, hotel, or car? If not, are they signing up for the newsletter or setting a price alert? So we
Yeah.
have a few of these indicators that tell us whether or not that traveler got value when they landed on the page. So yeah, I would say the traffic, the free traffic, and then we have certain metrics we look at, like activation, to see if they're
Right.
actually taking an action on the
Nice, nice. So no more rankings.
ranks. Yeah, well, the ranks are kind of like a secondary. We know if we're getting the free traffic, we're likely ranking
Yeah.
well. We will run tests. If we see an article with great potential is on top of page 2, we might do a test to see if we can get that to rank, page 1.
Nice, nice, fun. So now I know now moving on, you also manage content. So I'm assuming it's a super busy work. What do you focus when you talk about content and content creation, especially for such a major B2C public facing sites? What are some of the high bit order initiatives you work on when it comes to content?
So for me, I sometimes think content and SEO should be one and the same. So I do feel that a lot of it is similar. To me, where the separation is an article created for SEO might look a little bit different than it would be for paid social
Mhm.
or for PR or the newsletter. So yes, it does get busy when, we're trying to grow organic traffic, but at the same time, we've got the paid social team saying, hey, we want this sort of article for this campaign we're running. But ultimately, anytime someone asks me to create a piece of content for another channel, the first question I ask is, well, could this rank? Could we get this to rank as well?
Mhm.
So the wording might be a little bit different. We might change a few things. At the end of the day, if they do need a totally separate piece of content, we'll unindex it. So
Mhm.
it's not cannibalizing any other existing articles, and we'll completely kind of transform it to what that person needs for that specific channel.
Nice, nice. So, like,
Yeah.
do you rely a lot on user-generated type of content too, or it's just mostly in-house produced?
It's mostly in-house. We have a team of freelancers that's more keyword based.
Right.
We do have a section of the website that is UGC, and it's more reviews on specific destinations or top attractions. So
Hmm.
like travel guides, that sort of things, UGC. But when it comes to the more educational content for the social and the newsletter and PR, that's all in-house freelance.
Nice, nice. So, what are some of the challenges have you seen when it comes with content and content marketing in general in your industry?
Challenges. For me, it's probably the number of articles and competitors that are
Yeah.
out there, and that it's just so saturated. I mean, you go on Facebook and Instagram, and it's hard to know what's an ad versus organic.
Right. Right.
And you go to Google now, they just launched on mobile, they changed what the ad format kind of looks like for paid results. So they changed like the green ad button or whatever you want to call it to black, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit smaller. And so Google's kind of, intertwining this paid organic landscape and making it harder for the user to really distinguish what's paid versus unpaid. So all of that affects us and performance and every company for that matter. Google's constantly changing.
Yeah,
So
because that's how they figure out, right? Like if the more blended it is, the more money they'll make, right?
Exactly. So I'm sure for paid, it's great. They might see their click-through
Yeah.
rates improve, but for organic, not so much.
So it has an impact on organic, of
Right.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
And then also just for content marketing, another challenge is just standing out. So as I was saying, because it is so saturated, there's so much out there, what's going to set your company aside? What's going to make the person click on your article as
Mm.
opposed to the 10 other travel ads or pieces of content they've seen? So
So, so are you guys totally focused on text content, or do you look at other content like videos and things like that?
yeah, so I'd say 80% of the time it's text
Okay.
based. We haven't quite, cracked into video too much. We've
Mm-hmm.
done a few tests. We do have like a creative team globally that helps with video production and creative assets that we might need. So typically we'll do it for some larger campaigns or larger holidays, but definitely something we need to look into more
Right.
because video is obviously becoming the new way to consume content.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. So, what are the KPIs or metrics when you measure with content? Like, is traffic the only thing, or that is beyond like time spent and things like that?
Yeah, it really depends on what the article is
About.
aiming to do. But yeah, I would say mainly it's the organic traffic. We'll look at retention in a few instances to see if people came back and engaged with, our product again.
Yeah.
We'll collaborate sometimes with our commercial teams. So we do obviously work with some advertising partners.
No.
So there's instances where content's created for, a sponsored content sort of play. But yeah, it's mainly the organic traffic.
Nice. Fun. Now, it's interesting with Google you mentioned, because Google is a travel engine in a way, right? Does
Yeah.
it help or hurt, I'm guessing, right?
Oh, why'd you have to bring them up? No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I had to.
Um,
That's why I
yeah.
waited for like 20 minutes before I ask you that question.
Yeah. So obviously in the US, there's a lot of large competitors. And yes, Google is one of them. They have launched
Hmm.
their own travel products. And it can be tough. It can be frustrating, when you search for travel keywords and Google's there showing their
Right.
own flights. So we're just constantly trying to come up with creative solutions to, like I said, the long-tailed keywords or trying to rank for snippets
Yeah.
and trying to kind of be where they're not. So we're confident our growth has been great year over year in the Americas region and the
Mhm.
company as a whole. So we're doing things right.
Awesome. Yeah, you have to, right? Like how it's
Yeah.
always a double-edged sword, the
Yeah.
source that's gonna send you the most traffic now suddenly is in the same business as you are. What do you do for that, right?
Right. And
I
I
mean,
will say, oh, sorry,
no, no,
just on that point, in terms of like the kind of competitive landscape, we have been around since 2003. So we are established. We've built these direct relationships with 1,200 travel partners globally. We've got great coverage on prices, as I'm sure you've seen when you're booking your flights. So I think that does kind of give us an upper hand and show travelers some of the best options out
yeah.
there.
No, I love Skyscanner. As you said,
Yeah.
the reason I started using it because it gives you this combinations which most sites don't give you. So other people have started kind of copying a little bit. What do you call it? A hacker fair, but you guys have been doing a
Yeah.
while. So what it always does for me is it basically breaks down the search and the math and still like that, because a lot
Yeah.
of times I buy one-way flight and then, okay, I see this other airline is cheaper, then, we'll do that. But before, we are somehow trained, oh, we should buy a return trip, which is,
Yes.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's lots of tricks to save on flights. So,
yeah.
yeah, I always recommend searching one way versus the round trip, and you can be surprised with how the prices vary.
Yeah, maybe except couple times, and I fly quite frequently. Most of the times you end up getting good deals. So.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So you talked about influencer. Help us, our audience, understand how does influencer marketing, because it's such a big buzzword, right?
Yeah,
How does it play in your industry in a B2C world, especially in the travel plan? So what do you consider influencer marketing, and how do you go
yeah.
after it? Sorry.
I'm so glad that you mentioned it's become such a buzzword because it
Yeah.
has. And I think it's kind of thrown out there. And yeah, there's been loads of influencer marketing companies, I think, are hopping on this influencer bandwagon. And to me, I see influencer marketing in two ways. You see the Justin Biebers of the world, the Kim Kardashians, who put a product on the table and they're probably paid $1 million, and that's influencer marketing. And then you have these kind of mid-level influencers, still large followings compared to, the normal people of the world, but it's so much more authentic, and they really make an effort to educate their audience on the brand, talk about the features. It's great if they even use the product or whatever it is themselves. So that's our approach to influencer marketing. It's not just people mentioning Skyscanner here and there. It's working with them to fully educate their audience on who we are, how we can help the traveler through blog posts, through Instagram, and then repurposing that content on our own channels to then share that story with our own, travelers.
So I guess the strategy is, I think you call it the micro influencers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's go after the micro influencers, and they have a very authentic community,
Yes.
and the story it relates well than opposed to going after the big names of the world. So
Exactly.
how do you narrow down on who you're going after, and what do you then? How's your engagement process with them? Not
Yeah.
just in terms of amount, but like this is what you're supposed to do, how, things like that.
Right, right. So for us, I guess you could say we have a slight bias to influencers and travel bloggers who have already mentioned us
Yeah.
and who already use us. It's also easier to come across those mentions. So there's social listening tools out there. Google Analytics is a great place to start if you just
Hmm.
go into your referral traffic and just see what blogs or other websites out there have already sent you traffic. So that's a great place to start. And then when working with them, there's no one size fits all. You really have to determine what it is their audience is interested in. Does this person take more road trips and we want to work with them to promote car rental? Or are they a deals finder and they're always sharing ways to save money on travel? So then we'll work with them in that way. So we really try to come up with an individual tailored approach with each person we work with. And what we'll do to kind of measure success is the main goal is to drive traffic to Skyscanner or maybe it's app installs. And then we'll come up with a cost we're looking to stay around per
Yeah.
new visitor. So a cost per acquisition. And that's how we'll come up with what we're willing to pay and how many visitors we're hoping to get from the collaboration or installs.
Nice, nice. This is great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Very helpful. But have you seen any, do you have any suggestions for audience on best practices when you go on this influencer marketing path? Like if three things you wanna give as an advice, what would that be? I know. Sorry,
On
Kelsey.
the
You knew I was
spot.
gonna do this for you.
Three things I would make sure. I think a good indication of whether an influencer collaboration is going to be successful is how much, I guess, thought the influencer puts into the collaboration. So
Hmm.
when you start communicating with influencers, you might get a few that are like, okay, this is how much I charge for this post. Send me the link and I'll post it on Tuesday. And then you get the other influencers who are like, well, what are your KPIs? What sort of message are you looking to portray?
Right.
Do you have any specific talking points you want to get across? What sort of images do you think? And
Yeah.
that is just a great indication that they're going to put in effort and they care personally to see the campaign succeed.
Nice. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. I think this kind of approach for people goes across all industries.
Yeah, for
Even like
sure.
when you're working with digital agencies, or even when you're hiring people, it's the kind of questions that they're going to ask you, that that, okay, these are the people you want to work with, right?
For sure.
So this
Yeah.
is great. Now I know that your team, like I believe Skyscanner started somewhere on the other side of the pond, somewhere in Europe, right? So you have a global team. So how is it set up, if you don't mind me asking?
Right. So, yeah, so our original founder, Gareth, and a few of his buddies were actually on a ski trip they were looking for flights to go on a ski trip, and they were so frustrated with all the websites they had to check, like most of us are. We don't want to check loads of websites. So him and his friends were at the pub and just started kind of writing out what their ideal travel platform would look like, and they built it in an Excel spreadsheet. So that's how we originally started.
Nice.
And since then, we have 11 offices globally. We have over 1,200 employees. So we've really seen some great growth over the years.
Nice.
Yeah. So, sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, never mind. No, that was a good background in the
Oh,
company.
the structure, right. I just get excited talking about the pub story.
Great. I didn't stop
Um,
you, but yeah.
Yeah, so we are set up in what's called squadification. So we have tribes
Mm-hmm.
at kind of a high level. And then from there, we have individual squads. And the squads are teams typically with one goal in mind, or a market that they're trying to grow, where the tribes are more high level, set up to help the squads succeed in their goals. So in the US, we have about 7 people in the squad, and we are tasked with growing the US market
Mm-hmm.
through various marketing channels. And yeah, that's how we're set up.
Yeah, that's really great, because I was just actually I did a presentation the other week, and if the digital teams are not structured according to the organization goals, objectives, and probably because you guys are in such a growth mode, I think it serves you great if you have little squads, so everyone can work in a startup mode, right?
Exactly.
Conversely, if you are a very decentralized business and you try to bring the whole marketing team in-house as a central team, that may not work. So I've seen that happen too. So
Yeah,
uh,
and it helps support a more localized approach.
yeah.
So if you have a central marketing team trying to come up with campaigns for the US or Brazil, you're not going to have the same impact as people on the ground who understand the marketing, can really get the product in a place to succeed on a local level.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah, agree. Um, in terms of, before this, but when you look at the landscape, where digital is, where social is, and all that, how much of time people should be spending on organic, paid social, because it's part of growth marketing, right? So where do you see the conversions versus allocation, into paid and organic, and especially with paid social, for example?
Yeah, great question. I would say free traffic is great.
Yeah.
So I would personally recommend putting quite a bit of time and effort into organic. And unfortunately, a lot of CEOs and high level execs, they want to see immediate returns, and that's obviously not the case with organic. It can be a long term investment, and looking at the ROI per article is not. It just doesn't make sense for
Right.
content. So it is a more of a long-term play, but it can take 2 to 3 years just to get your website to have a higher domain authority. So Google is crawling it more often and giving more weight to it. So I would say organic definitely need to invest quite a bit of time. In terms of the other channels, I think there should just always be campaigns ongoing. And don't just launch campaigns, have them finish, and then launch another one. See how you can kind of get these campaigns that are always on. test different campaigns that you can then scale. So yeah, I would say a decent amount of time should be put to both of those. But yeah.
That's great. Now, Kelsey, this is great, but is there any question that I didn't ask and you want to share or talk about that somehow I missed?
Any question? Not that I can think of. I think everything we got a lot
Good.
discussed.
This is good. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is great. Glad I was able to do that. So, Kelsey, how do I know people you can find you on LinkedIn, but what's your Twitter handle? If so,
Oh,
anyway, if you want people to reach out to you,
yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
shout
I don't use Twitter, unfortunately, but I do have Instagram. You can follow me. You're gonna laugh at my username, but it's kel.seetheworld. So, very appropriate for working at Skyscanner.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
kel.sey the world.
The world. Nice, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so much,
yeah,
Kelsey. This has been amazing. Thank you for taking the time and
of course.
talking with us. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. All right, folks, that's it. And we will talk soon. But I thought that was a great episode. And glad you enjoyed chatting with Kelsey and hearing all about her insights. Thank you. Thanks, Kelsey. Bye.